What if I told you that the biggest threat to your healthy relationships isn't cheating, lying, or even growing apart? What if the real saboteur is something far more subtle, something that lives quietly in the space between your heart and your mind, whispering that you don't deserve the very love you've been searching for your entire life? Here's the uncomfortable truth most people never want to face. We don't run from toxic relationships because we're weak. We run from healthy ones because they feel foreign. And that foreignness, it's not a sign that something's wrong with the relationship. It's a sign that something beautiful is finally right, and our nervous system doesn't know how to process it. Think about it for a moment. Have you ever noticed how the people who treat you with genuine kindness sometimes make you feel more anxious than those who keep you guessing? How a partner who actually listens to you can feel more threatening than one who dismisses you? If this resonates, you're not broken. You're just human, carrying the invisible weight of patterns that were never yours to begin with. The paradox of healthy love is that it can feel like the most dangerous thing in the world when you've been raised in chaos. Your brain, that magnificent survival machine, has been trained to recognize drama as safety and peace as the calm before the storm. So when someone shows up offering consistent affection, emotional availability, and respect, every alarm bell in your system starts ringing. This isn't about psychology textbooks or childhood trauma stories. This is about the moment you realize that the person sitting across from you at dinner, the one who remembers how you like your coffee and asks about your day without an agenda, feels scarier than the one who used to make you cry every other week. But here's where it gets interesting. That discomfort you feel when someone loves you well, it's not your intuition telling you to run.
It's your conditioning trying to pull you back into what feels familiar, even if familiar feels terrible. The same way your body might crave sugar, even when you know it makes you feel sick, your emotional system might crave intensity, even when you know it leaves you depleted. I want you to imagine your emotional system as a thermostat that's been set to complicated for so long that simple feels like a malfunction. When someone offers you uncomplicated love, when they say what they mean and mean what they say, your internal temperature gauge starts flashing error messages. Not because there's actually an error, but because the system doesn't recognize this new normal. Here's the first technique that can help you rewire this response: conscious discomfort recognition. The next time you feel that familiar urge to pull away from someone who's treating you well, pause. Don't judge the feeling. Don't try to make it go away. Just notice it. Ask yourself, is this fear telling me something real about this person, or is it telling me something familiar about my past? Most of the time, that anxiety isn't about the present moment. It's about the ghost of every time someone got close and then hurt you. Your brain is trying to protect you from a pain that already happened, not one that's happening now. The syndrome of feeling like an emotional imposter runs deeper than most people realize. It's not just about thinking you don't deserve love. It's about feeling like you're fooling everyone, including yourself, when you try to accept it. Like you're wearing a costume of someone worthy of healthy affection, and any moment now, the person loving you will see through the disguise and run. This imposter syndrome in relationships shows up in subtle ways. You might find yourself overgiving, trying to earn love that's already being freely offered. You might scan for signs that the other person is getting tired of you, looking for evidence that confirms your worst fears about yourself.
Or you might start fights unconsciously, testing whether this person will stay when things get difficult. But what if the love you're receiving isn't something you have to earn or deserve? What if it's simply being offered, the same way sunlight is offered to everything that grows? You don't have to convince the sun to shine on you. You just have to stop standing in the shadows. The second technique is what I call emotional evidence gathering. Instead of collecting evidence for why you don't deserve love, start collecting evidence for why you do. Not grand gestures or perfect moments, but the small, quiet ways someone chooses you daily. The way they text you back, the way they remember your stories, the way they make space for your feelings without trying to fix them immediately. Create a mental file of these moments. When your imposter syndrome starts whispering that you're too much or not enough, pull out this evidence. Not to prove anything to anyone else, but to remind yourself of what's actually happening in the present moment. Your limbic system doesn't distinguish between physical and emotional threats. When someone gets close enough to really see you, to witness your fears and flaws and choose to stay anyway, it can trigger the same fight or flight response as if you were facing a physical predator. Intimacy requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires trust, and trust requires letting go of control. For someone who learned early that control equals safety, letting go can feel like dying. But here's what trauma teaches us that health must help us unlearn. Being seen isn't the same as being hurt. Being known isn't the same as being abandoned. Being loved isn't the same as being trapped. Think about the last time someone offered you comfort when you were struggling. Did part of you want to push them away? Did you feel the urge to minimize your pain or change the subject? That's your nervous system trying to protect you from the danger of being cared for.
But what if the walls you built to keep pain out are also keeping love out? The same barriers that protected you when you were small might be suffocating you now that you're capable of choosing who gets access to your heart. Here's where ancient wisdom meets modern understanding. The Stoics had a concept called amor fati, love of fate. Not passive acceptance of whatever happens, but an active embrace of your entire story, including the parts that taught you to fear love. Your past isn't something to be ashamed of. It's simply information about where you've been, not a prediction of where you're going. The third technique is called graduated emotional exposure. Just like you might gradually expose yourself to a fear of heights by starting with a small step stool, you can gradually expose yourself to healthy love by taking small emotional risks. Start with something manageable. Maybe it's letting someone help you with a minor task without immediately reciprocating. Maybe it's sharing a small worry without downplaying it. Maybe it's simply saying thank you when someone compliments you instead of deflecting. These aren't dramatic gestures. They're tiny acts of rebellion against the voice that says you're safer alone. Each time you take one of these small risks and the world doesn't end, you're providing your nervous system with new data. You're slowly teaching your brain that intimacy doesn't always lead to injury. The goal isn't to eliminate all fear around love. The goal is to help your fear response become more accurate, more present moment focused, to help it distinguish between echoes of old pain and signs of current threat. There's a difference between being ready for love and being open to it. You might never feel completely ready. Readiness implies that there's some finish line you need to cross before you're worthy of connection. But openness is a choice you can make right now in your current state of beautifully imperfect humanity.
The fourth technique is the practice of loving witness. When you notice yourself starting to sabotage a healthy relationship, when you feel the familiar urge to create distance or drama, don't try to stop it immediately. Instead, become a loving witness to your own fear. Ask yourself, what is this part of me trying to protect me from? What does it need to feel safe? Sometimes the answer is time. Sometimes it's reassurance. Sometimes it's simply acknowledgement that yes, love is scary, especially when it's real. Your protective parts aren't your enemies. They're parts of you that learned to survive, and it's okay to gently help them learn new ways of being. The ancient philosopher Epictetus taught that we suffer not from events themselves, but from our judgments about events. Your past relationships weren't failures that prove you're unlovable. They were experiences that taught you discernment, that showed you what you don't want, that prepared you to recognize what you do want when it arrives. But here's what I want you to remember. Healing isn't a destination you arrive at. It's a practice you engage in daily. It's the choice to respond from your wisdom rather than your wounds, to choose connection over protection. The person who loves you well isn't asking you to be perfect. They're not asking you to never have moments of fear or doubt. They're simply asking you to stay present, to communicate what you're feeling, to let them support you through the discomfort of being truly seen. Maybe the love you've been searching for isn't some grand, perfect thing that will fix all your problems. Maybe it's something quieter and more sustainable. Maybe it's someone who sees your patterns and chooses to stay anyway, who witnesses your growth and celebrates your courage. The next time you feel that familiar urge to push away someone who's treating you well, remember this: you're not protecting yourself from love.
You're protecting yourself from the vulnerability that love requires. But vulnerability isn't weakness. It's the birthplace of connection and joy. Your heart knows the difference between love that heals and love that hurts. Your nervous system might need some time to catch up, but your heart knows. Trust it. Trust the quiet voice that says maybe, just maybe, this person is different. What if the healthiest thing you could do right now is to let someone love you exactly as you are? What if the most courageous thing you could do is to stop running from the very thing you've been searching for? The choice is always yours. You just have to choose one small, brave moment at a time to stay open to the possibility that love might finally be safe.